Another organisation is taking the recently amended Electoral Act to court. This follows a similar challenge launched by the Independent Candidates Association, where it's questioning the constitutionality of the signatures that the candidate must submit to be on the open ballot and the formula to recalculate seats when vacancies occur. But will these legal challenges have any impact on next year's national elections? Perhaps to unpack this, we're going to be joined live by the former IEC Deputy Chair, Tselane. A very good afternoon to you, Terry. Thank you for joining us here on the SABC.
Good afternoon to you, and thank you very much for having me.
So we're obviously seeing the challenges against the new Electoral Act, and we're wondering if these challenges, but obviously there are also challenges looming in the Constitutional Court as well. We also understand that elections are supposed to be conducted every 5 years, and I wonder how you'd weigh in whether these challenges are going to have any impact on the upcoming elections in 2024.
Unfortunately, they're going to have a serious impact in terms of the IEC's capacity to deliver a smooth election. As you may recall that when the Electoral Commission prepares for the elections, it requires at least 24 months to prepare for the elections. And the uncertainty that has arisen as a result of this will create great difficulties for them, because they've got to prepare logistics, they've got to train the electoral staff, and they've got to make sure that all other processes in the electoral process are catered for. And unfortunately, the uncertainty will create great difficulties for them to be able to deliver free and fair elections, or even a smooth election. So
with independent candidates lamenting the guidelines that dictate their eligibility, do you think if these matters are not resolved in time and adequately, that it's going to compromise on the fairness of elections?
Absolutely. I mean, we've raised those issues previously to say to Parliament that, unfortunately, these issues, create great difficulties around the Amendment Act, and that they've got to be before the elections are held. And unfortunately, again, Parliament delayed in terms of finalizing these issues, and they had almost 2 years within which the Constitutional Court had said they must resolve the Electoral Amendment Act, and they kept on asking for extension. In my opinion, what they should have done instead, because the extension that they required was allowing the IEC to continue to use the Electoral Act that had been declared invalid in management of the elections. So I would have thought that, given the fact that Parliament itself did not have sufficient time to deal with these issues, they would have rather asked for the extension of the invalidity until after the 2024 election, so that the current Electoral Act, or rather the Electoral Act that was declared invalid, is the one that continues to operate. Now, Parliament realizes that there are difficulties with the Amendment Act that is there, and they now are also simultaneously developing a separate process which is going to be looking at the overhaul of the whole electoral system, when in actual fact this process should have actually awaited that process.
You're speaking about capacity and resources of the IEC, perhaps as we age closer, and I wonder at this point, given the move in dynamics and the questions that remain, will the IEC be able to prepare in time, given the looming core challenges to the Electoral Act?
The IEC is going to have a mammoth task of having to prepare within the period of uncertainty. And then the next elections are going to be the hotly contested elections. So I don't see how they're going to be able to deal with all these great difficulties. But at the same time, I think it is within the rights of those NGOs to approach the Constitutional Court and say that we are unhappy with the following issues, because they had raised those issues before, but unfortunately Parliament did not actually listen to them.
Terry, then just very quickly, what are the outcomes ahead of the 2024 elections at this point? What scenarios are we actually anticipating or predicting?
It is very, very difficult to tell at this stage. But I assume that if the current Electoral Act is also declared invalid, I would expect the IEC to approach Parliament and then request Parliament to change the Constitution in order to allow them to have an election outside the constitutionally stipulated period. Because at the moment they're operating within a very tight time frame, and I don't think if the Electoral Act is declared invalid, they would actually be able to do these elections within a constitutionally stipulated period.
Terry, thank you for your time with us here on the SABC and for echoing those sentiments. Terry Tselane, of course, the former IEC Deputy Chair, just giving us an update, reacting to yet another organization taking the recently amended Electoral Act to court. So we'll continue to monitor developments and see how that unfolds.